For my 28th birthday, I got a present of a mug cake recipe book. And for everyone in the audience who's now thinking, there is absolutely no way that this girl is 28, you're right, you're totally right, because it was 3 years ago. So I'm 31, okay? I don't really have time to convince you any further, okay? So you can either choose to believe me or be in the majority of bouncers in Ireland. And don't, yeah. But for anyone who's unfamiliar with mug cakes, I have a few pictures. They're basically just cakes that you make in a mug. You put them in the microwave, and they take about 30 seconds, okay? So obviously, I couldn't wait to make my own mug cake, and this is how my one turned out. And I have an aerial view. You could say my mug cake wasn't quite perfect. Okay. But by coincidence, at the same time that I got this mug cake book and I made this cake, I was writing a bilingual comedy show using English and the Irish language, or Gaelic, as some people may know it. And I was trying to write something that would allow people to hear and enjoy the language in a fun and accessible way. Because for the majority of Irish people, the Irish language is a second language. We spend 14 years learning it in school, and the majority of us like the language and would like to speak it. But the unfortunate thing is that only a handful of us ever actually speak it meaningfully within our everyday lives. And the reasons why we tend not to speak it are the same for anyone trying to speak a second language, whether it's French or German or Japanese. The reasons that stop us are fear. Fear of making mistakes, fear of embarrassment, and fear that it's not going to be perfect. And I've noticed this as I try to promote my comedy, because people say to me, "Oh, no, sure, that's Irish. I'd have no idea what's going on. I wouldn't understand anything." People assume that I'm a fluent speaker and that my level of Irish is going to be at an incomprehensible level. But the thing about it is my Irish is terrible. It's terrible. And I'm actually in the majority. I'm not a fluent or native speaker. I'm just someone who learned it in school, but I've managed to find a way to speak it in my everyday life. And it's because I'm in the majority that I have this passion to write bilingual comedy and share it with other people. The best thing I ever did to learn Irish was start playing Gaelic football with an Irish-speaking team. Because up to that point, I'd tried lessons and I'd done different things, but it was when it was part of a hobby that it became something natural for me, and it just, made it easy for me to learn. And I'll tell you now, for anyone who's trying to speak a language and, starts to speak a second language, engage with fluent speakers, and once you start doing it, those fears, the fears of being embarrassed and making mistakes, those fears become an absolute reality. I had no idea what was going on. Up to that point, the only time I'd ever heard Irish, there'd be a beep before the conversation. And the only reason that I learned the word taobhlíne, which means sideline, is because the sideline was my position for matches. And that took me 3 months to learn, and quite a lot of awkward social conversations of people trying to explain that to me. But I think the worst thing about it was because it was me trying to communicate in a second language, I felt I couldn't be myself. I couldn't express myself how I normally would. I couldn't use humor. And I just felt that my other teammates thought that I was just a bit boring and didn't really have any personality because I couldn't connect beyond a very simple level. And anyway, I stuck with it. I continued, and because it was playing football, it was natural for me. And after time, it got easier. My Irish got better. And to the point that after 2 years of playing, I became the captain of the team. And now at this point, my Irish still was in no way fluent, and I had a huge amount of insecurities about it. But I just tend to be the person to say yes and find myself in these situations. So it was the first game of our season. It was half-time, and we were in the dressing room. And we were also losing badly. And I was there, it was my first day as captain, and I was really trying my best, ag déanamh m'iarracht dis fear, to give a kind of like a serious and motivational talk. And I was in the dressing room and I was saying, we just have to focus on marking, okay? Please, mark your player all of the time. And if you see a free player, it's no one else's responsibility. Mark them yourselves. And as I was saying this and looking around the dressing room, I could see everyone was beginning to smirk, and eventually everyone burst out laughing. And immediately I was really annoyed because I was trying to be serious. But in a split second, my annoyance turned to absolute embarrassment because I had no idea why people were laughing. And I realized that the Irish to mark, or to defend, is bí ag marcáil. But what I was saying was bí ag marcíocht. So some of you already get the joke. And for those of you who don't, what bí ag marcíocht means is to ride. And for anyone who doesn't understand the connotations of what that is in Ireland, I was basically encouraging my team to go out to perform quite an intimate act with their counterpart, yes? Something that would typically be done in a bedroom between two people, yeah? So you can see me in the dressing room. Please, we have to focus on riding. Ride your player all of the time, and if you see a free player, it's no one else's responsibility. Ride them yourselves. I was embarrassed. But I think that example does kind of, it's a good example because it shows how even if you're speaking to another English speaker, we have the potential to make mistakes. If you're not from Ireland and you don't realise that that's what to ride means here, you could potentially find yourself in an embarrassing situation. Just like I think foreign people don't understand the Irish dating culture, because I've heard that in America you start a date with a meal, whereas in Ireland, you know, we start a date by going out, we start dancing, we start kissing, and then we make eye contact. So language and culture create opportunities for misunderstandings, yes? And I could stand here and I could keep telling stories of times when I embarrassed myself, when I was out of my comfort zone, when I got heckled by an audience member to correct my grammar. But I want to come back to the mug cake. Because this mug cake, it might not be perfect. But the interesting thing about it is, because it turned out like this, it meant that it gave me the inspiration to write that comedy show that I was writing at the time. So it's as if something positive and unexpected came from the very fact that it wasn't perfect. So my Irish isn't perfect. And actually, I think it's a huge amount more than that. It's become this exciting part of my life that I never thought I never thought I would have. It's continued to challenge me, and it's meant that I've met amazing new people, had wonderful experiences, and built my own confidence and resilience in a way that kind of doing new things just doesn't seem that difficult anymore. So what I want to say is, if you want to learn a second language, if it's Irish or French or Japanese, if you want to make mug cakes or whatever it is, let's stop worrying about being perfect and let's humiliate ourselves. Let's embrace the unknown. Let's make mistakes. Let's ride each other. Because I think the ability to do that and to learn and develop positive things out of it, for me, that is perfect. Thank you.